About to get started. Yay! Super exciting. Let all the notifications go out. And people start to come in. Oops. I'm making a mess over here. Okay. Okay. Looking for the notifications to come in on my phone. And I'll know when everyone is joining me. There we go. Looks like things are starting to go live. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come on in. Say hello in the chat. Let me know where you're coming in from, how you're doing today, that you're here. Hello, Sir Thomas. Good morning to you. Or in my case, it's good afternoon from the East Coast of the United States of America. How are you doing today? I'm very excited about this. I love to talk about boundaries, and I think a lot of people are very hard on themselves when it comes to boundaries. And I think that we need to both give ourselves a little bit more grace and also learn more about boundaries so that we can do better. So, I'm going to go ahead and get things started with my introduction. Queen Sassy, lovely to see you. I feel like it's been a while since we've had any opportunities to chat, so it is lovely to see you. Okay, for those of you who do not yet know me, hi there, I'm Heather. Most people call me Nookie. In addition to living my most amazing personal life, I write books, teach classes, offer workshops, go live on topics like this, all about love, sex, romance, and kink for people of all genders, relationship statuses, orientations, and more. I've always been curious and adventurous when it comes to sex, and luckily I've had partners who've been the same. So I've explored many facets of sexuality in loving and creative ways. All of my experiences thus far have led me to the belief that boundaries are the key to not only saving ourselves, but our relationships. They are what take us from getting by or merely average to healthy, loving, strong, and fan-fucking-tastic. So let's get started. Okay, so today we are talking about soft boundaries. And I am writing my new book, Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck, right now. And you can get access to the chapters as I write and post them. And I'm going to give you that information here. I actually forgot to get that up on the screen. So I'm going to hop on over and grab that for you. What I'm doing is I'm actually writing the book live, and then I am here we go. There we go. I'm writing the book live and I am posting it chapter by chapter. Just today, I posted the first part of a chapter on time boundaries. And I'm interacting on forums with questions about boundaries. And I am getting feedback on what people are wanting to know more about when it comes to boundaries. And so, if you would like to join the Live Write, please do. Within the next week or so, the Live Write is no longer going to be free. So, if you are interested in joining, I suggest you do it soon, because we're going to put a small price on it moving forward. So if you're interested in that, you're definitely going to want to join now, because I'm really excited about it and I would love to have you. So today we're talking about one of the topics I address in this book, and it's the idea that if you have poor personal boundaries or soft personal boundaries, or some people call them permeable personal boundaries, it's not your fault. Okay. Um, the challenge is it's not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And I have a quote that I start this chapter off with that says, "The more severe the dysfunction you experienced growing up, the more difficult boundaries are for you." Okay, so that's where we're coming from, is the idea that if you experience trauma, dysfunction, or you were modeled poor personal boundaries as you were growing up, it's going to be that much harder for you to exhibit and maintain good personal boundaries in your life. Hello, Sabyasachi. It is lovely to see you. And that's what we're talking about today, is the idea that if you're not taught personal boundaries, it's really difficult to set and maintain personal boundaries. So it's not your fault if you don't yet have good personal boundaries. However, because I personally believe that taking care of you is of your utmost importance, it is your responsibility to build good personal boundaries for yourself. Okay. So, for those of you in the chat, are you with me on that? Like, it is not your fault if you don't have good personal boundaries to this point in your life. However, the fact that you are here in this discussion means that you know that boundaries are important, and it is your responsibility to create good boundaries for yourself. Queen Sassy or Shelly says, when someone shows you attention, the boundaries you have can go out the window. I was not holding my boundaries, and now that I am, people are pissed. Absolutely. And I actually was just talking, my assistant is here working with me today. Every week we usually do an in-person work day. Sometimes we do two. My assistant has actually learned a lot about boundaries from me. And we were discussing that one of the chapters coming up in the book, near the end of the book, is, I won't lie, it's gonna freaking hurt. Because setting good boundaries is not easy, right? And because you're gonna get a lot of pushback from people in your life, right? Because they're not used to you setting boundaries, and they're going to feel attacked by that. They're going to feel invalidated by your boundaries. They're going to feel that maybe you love them less because you're putting these boundaries in place for yourself. And so it's not going to be easy to create those personal boundaries, but it's so worth it. So thank you for bringing that up. Thank you. This is a hat I got at a little art festival a couple of years back, and I just think it's fun. I want it to be fun today because we're talking about a very deep topic, right? Okay, so many of us grow up with fuzzy boundaries. Very, very few people are taught healthy boundaries at all, right? So we are not modeled good behavior. We are not given examples of how to set and maintain boundaries in our lives. We don't see this modeled in our families. We don't see it modeled in our friends. We don't see it modeled in the movies we watch. We don't see it modeled on TV. We rarely even see it modeled in like the books that we might escape to, right? In fact, often when we do show personal boundaries, when we are children, right, our very first words often include the word no. And we are taught when we are small and everyone else is large and we are dependent upon them, that if we say no, that is a bad thing. And we are often taught that we will then lose affection. We will lose privileges. We are forced to do the things like, no, I don't want to hug Aunt Mabel. Go over there and hug Aunt Mabel. She's your aunt. You have to hug your aunt. You have to hug family, right? This is how we are often taught, is that our personal boundaries don't matter, or worse, that personal boundaries are bad or wrong or selfish. Yeah. So we're told we need to do what's expected of us. We need to be nice or do as I say. We spend our lives being controlled by others. So as we grow and as we are no longer as dependent on those people for our love and our living and our food and our basic shelter and so on and so forth, we then learn to control others in the way that we were controlled. We pass this on to our children, right? Or we watched our mother and our father bicker over controlling the family finances or controlling who would get to make choices about what the children did and so on and so forth. And we learn to turn that around ourselves and put in the effort to control others. Or we grow up and we allow others to control us in exchange for love, which is what Queen Sassy was just talking about, right? Let me put that back up on the screen here. When someone shows you attention, the boundaries you have can go out the window. So we're giving up our boundaries. We're allowing them to control us in exchange for that attention and love. Is this sounding familiar? Is this feeling familiar to y'all? Like, is this resonating with you? Because again, this is not your fault. This is how we are taught. This is how we are socialized throughout most of our lives, right? Go to school, follow these rules. These people have control over you. These people can tell you what to do. It doesn't matter what your personal feelings are, right? And if you're neuroatypical or neurodivergent, that adds a whole nother layer, right? Some people hate to be touched. And yet, in school, if you're being touched by another child in a way that authorities deem non-threatening, and you react to that and say, "Don't touch me," step away, or you slap their hand away, you are often the one punished for asserting your boundaries despite the fact that they are infringing upon them. So, not your fault. The thing is, you've probably been told by someone who loves you that your boundaries are wrong, that your boundaries make you disagreeable, that they put people off, that you'll have a hard time finding love, right? And the thing is, the people who tell you that, they probably mean the best for you. They want you to find love. They want you to make it in life. They were told the same thing. And they're wrong. And when they were told those things themselves, the people who told them were wrong. Right? Other people tell us our boundaries are wrong, that we should be more pleasant, that we shouldn't be so hard on others, that we should learn to take a joke. Right? Some of these people love us. Some of these people might say they love us or that they're acting in our best interest, but they really do it because they benefit from our lack of boundaries, right? Relatives get offended because I didn't force my kids to give a hug. Exactly. Exactly. So by modeling what good personal boundaries look like, you were upsetting family who want you to have, or your children in this case, to have fewer boundaries, who benefit from you having, or your children having, fewer boundaries, right? They feel more loved if somebody is forced to give them a hug than if somebody says, I love you and I don't want to hug Mima. It's rough. So let me say that again and loudly. We are told that expressing our boundaries will push people away by people who love us and mean the best for us because they were told that. And we're told it by people who benefit from our lack of boundaries. Right? Now, as I've already said, and as I'm sure you've guessed, I believe the opposite is true. When we do not set and maintain good personal boundaries, we end up resentful and bitter and withdrawn because our relationships suck and suck and suck the life out of us. And that is what leads to an eventual breakdown of us, our hearts, our minds, our relationships. So it's time to set guilt aside. Right? It's not your fault that you believe the people who love you. Right? It's not your fault that you believed your family who want you to succeed and were told that the best way to succeed, the best way to find love is to give up their own personal boundaries. It's not your fault. It is also, let me be clear, it is also not your fault that you believe the people who didn't love you or who were acting in their own best interest instead of yours. That's not your fault. The majority of people in the world are bad at boundaries, like super sucktaculous. So there is absolutely zero reason for you to feel awful. In fact, there's a good reason for you to start feeling great. Because you're spending time with me right now in this live presentation. Because hopefully you're going to choose to spend some time with me while I write my boundaries book and to explore what boundaries mean to you and how to put them in place and how to enforce them and how to use them to create a more spectacular and fulfilling personal life and relationships. And here's the thing. From my perspective, however you choose to do it, whether you choose to do it with me, whether you choose to do it on your own, whether you choose to go out and buy another book or another course or whatever it is out there, it is your responsibility to do that for you. Not your fault, but it is your responsibility. And as I'm sure you know, responsibility is not always an easy thing. I mean, adulting sometimes sucks, right? Especially trying to create new habits and behaviors when you've relied on old habits and behaviors for so long. But you're here and you're listening to me and you've come this far, so you know that there's more you can learn. And so it is your responsibility to learn that and to grow and to set better boundaries for yourself and to create a better life for yourself. So you stop feeling resentful and bitter and withdrawn and having sucky relationships, right? When you start setting boundaries, you're going to feel that first big pushback from deep inside. The first big pushback you're going to feel is from you. Because setting and enforcing a boundary is an intentional process. It takes thought and it's a conscious decision. You're no longer just going along to get along, you're taking a stand. And that means taking responsibility for your actions, which is scary as fuck. You are the only one who can take this action. You are the only one who has to live with the consequences, right? And you're the only one who may be keeping yourself from having the healthy, loving relationships that you dream of, stepping back from drama and conflict, and finding your way to your most authentic, fulfilling life. And if that's not yours for you to do for you, then who? Right? So let's open this up to questions. What questions do you have about boundaries? What questions do you have about growing up and learning about boundaries or not learning about boundaries? How were boundaries modeled for you when you were young? How were they not modeled for you when you were young? Love to hear from any of you in the chat. I also have a question from Joey Cobalt, who is in the Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck live right, and posted a question to answer during one of these live Q&As. So I'm going to answer this question. And the question is this, and this is kind of a deep, heavy one. So bear with me on this one. With climate change, the threat of civil war, the threat of nuclear war, etc., how can we stay informed non-doomers and balance the brain stress? Ooh, that's tough, right? There is a lot in that question to answer. I can tell you only what works for me because everyone has a different way of doing it. So I subscribe to a woman named Heather Cox Richardson. She is a political historian, and every single day she puts out, well, every single weekday, she puts out, well, maybe it's every single day. Whew. I read them on weekdays. She puts out a letter that sort of summarizes the past 24 hours, how it relates to our political history, what we could be looking at and looking for. And that's where I get the majority of my political news. Right? If there's something said in there that maybe I missed from a previous day because I was exhausted or I was, celebrating my birthday month or whatever, I'll go look it up online. I'll choose a news source and I'll explore it a little bit. I pay $60 a year to be one of her subscribers because I believe that the $60 I pay is well worth the amount of information that she distills for me. And that's how I do it. That's how I keep up and know what's going on while still maintaining my personal boundaries. You may not really resonate with that as much. She is definitely what I would consider more liberal leaning than conservative. Um, but for me, that's what works. You might want to find another way to get your news and follow along. I know she also does do it free. I pay because I believe in the value of what she does, but you can get her newsletter for free. You can also follow her on Facebook. In fact, I will give you the link for those of you who are interested in following her on Facebook, or in finding her on Facebook and looking her up. Heather Cox Richardson. There we go. So for those of you who are interested, let me put that in there. I'll show that on the screen as well. Heather Cox Richardson. And again, she has an email list you can join. So you can actually get her messages sent directly to your email list. If you Google Heather Cox Richardson, you can find her site as well. So yeah, that's how I would handle something like that, trying to keep on top of what's going on in politics in our country specifically, and also in the world, while not losing everything I have. And I hold those boundaries on Facebook as well. I rarely get involved in political discussions on Facebook or on social media. It is not worth it to me. I only tend to jump in when I see something from somebody that I actually respect that might actually be wrong. And, I'll share the links to the correction without necessarily giving my opinion on the topic. But even that I do rarely. I do jump in when people talk about civil rights, and I stand up for those. But otherwise, I tend to, kind of keep my chill by following along and voting how I believe. So again, I'd like to throw out, the idea. I am writing my new book right now. Working title: Boundaries Are Sexy as Fuck. You can get access to the chapters as I write and post them at that link that's up on the screen right there. You also can get access, as I post them there, you can get access to me, ask your questions about boundaries as you go through the lessons. We encourage you to post in the forums and to, share your own boundaries journey in the forums. You get to interact with other people who are focusing in on improving their boundaries, their personal boundaries. And again, right now it's free, but within the next week or so, certainly by the middle of September, the LiveWrite will no longer be free. It will actually go up to $7 or thereabouts fee. And we're going to be opening it up to a wider audience. But that $7 will get, again, it'll get more than the book. It will also get you the book when it's completed, but it'll get you more than the book. It will get you access to me to ask your questions. I get into the forums on usually every weekday, except on holidays. It will also get you access to all of these replays, which are currently being posted on YouTube, but will also go up there so it's easy to access them as well. And it'll give you the chance to see how this book comes together. Like right now, as I'm writing each chapter, I'm sort of going through the process of, I wrote the outline, right? And then I filled out the outline, and then I'm writing each chapter based on that filled out outline. And I'm actually sort of long writing. So some of these chapters are incredibly long and detailed. And then what I'll do for the book is I'll go through and I will reduce the amount of information that I'm giving into a more digestible book format with links to an online community like the one that we've got set up that'll have deeper dives into certain areas, so that you can learn more about these things. If you're the type of person like I am, who is fascinated by all of this stuff and wants to dig down into the whys and wherefores. Also, joining the live will get you access to a special discounted option to join the Take No Shit workshop. So, the book I'm saying is kind of like a deep dive into everything boundaries. Um, it's like picking it all apart and why do you do it and how are they done and so on and so forth. Whereas the Take No Shit workshop is more like, buckle up, bitches, we're building boundaries. So it's step by step. This is how to build a boundary. We're going to take a few of your boundaries. We're going to build them as we go through the workshop. I'm going to show you how to be flexible and when not to be flexible, how to set those boundaries, different ways to communicate them, and so on and so forth. Both the book and the workshop stand alone. They can be done without each other. But of course, putting them together, for those who like both step by step and a supportive community in order to build those boundaries, and a book that gives you a deep dive into all the different types of boundaries and maybe gives you a little bit more internal thought exercises for yourself. It's good to have them both, which is why I'm making them available in that format. So I don't see any additional questions here. So real quick, I'll give you just a few more moments to get in a question about boundaries if you have them. If not, I will wrap this one up today and I will be back on Thursday. Thursday, I have, what's the next one coming up? I'm not even sure. This is how the world goes right now. Okay. So Thursday I'll be talking about physical boundaries. So personal space and physical touch. It's related to sexual boundaries, although this is going to be non-sexual boundaries. It spans more than just sexual intimacy and interaction and into all types of physical intimacy and interaction on a number of different levels. So we're going to be talking about physical boundaries. Yeah. So yeah, super excited about that. I don't see any additional questions coming in. So I'm going to go ahead and say thank you so much for joining me today. Again, I'm Nookie. My wallet name is Heather Claus. My pronouns are she, hers. And I am currently writing my next book about boundaries. Go ahead and join me with the link in the chat that I've given you that's up on the screen. Again, this is not the last chance, but one of the last chances you'll have to join us for that live right at no cost to yourself. So thank you so very much. Have a most wonderful day. And hopefully I will see you Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. So it's Tuesday at noon Eastern and Thursday at 2 p.m. Eastern. And actually, I see a question in the chat that I am going to, what the heck? There we go. There for a second. I'm not quite sure what happened. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and answer this question that just came into the chat because, frankly, I feel it needs to be addressed. John, why have you adopted this LGBT BS? Well, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, and I'm assuming you're talking about my pronouns, she, hers. First of all, because I don't believe that anyone should assume pronouns. So I like to give my pronouns. I think that that's just a considerate way to act. Second, because, hi, my name is Heather. People call me Nookie, and I am LGBT. So if you have a problem with LGBT BS, I suggest you get the fuck off of my channel. It's that simple. So thank you. And to all of you who have been here, I appreciate you joining me today. Have an amazing day.